Evelyn, a simple woman, arrived at Howbridge and ran like a small flame flickering against a storm. The company's glass towers reflected a world built for the elite, sharp, ruthless, and unforgiving. At the center was Richard Howbridge, a CEO cold as ice, single for 30 years, and famously allergic to women. No one expected Evelyn to last a day, much less catch his attention. She was underestimated, mocked, and pushed to the brink by polished interns who thrived on power games. But beneath her quiet exterior, a fierce determination burned bright. Slowly, she chipped away at his defenses in ways no one thought possible. Evelyn was the one who melted his frozen heart and changed everything. The revolving doors of Howbridge and Wren opened like a portal to another world, one where the air itself seemed charged with ambition, power, and silent judgment. Evelyn Carter stepped inside, feeling the weight of the polished marble beneath her worn sneakers, the echo of her footsteps swallowed by the cavernous lobby. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen stars, casting sharp, cold light across the dark wood-paneled walls. The scent of expensive leather and faint cologne lingered in the air, a silent reminder that this place was built for those born into privilege or hardened by relentless power. Her heart pounded, a steady drumbeat of hope and fear. Her fingers clenched the strap of her bag, knuckles whitening. This bag carried everything she had. A few notebooks, an old laptop, and the countless dreams she had packed away since her childhood in Pine Hollow, Kansas. A place where the tallest buildings were grain silos, and people knew your name because you'd been there forever. This was different. This was Wall Street. Howbridge and Wren was a firm everyone whispered about with reverence and dread. They brokered deals worth billions. They shaped futures with a few cold words. And Evelyn was just an intern. She forced herself to look up as she made her way to the elevators, meeting the eyes of security guards who scrutinized her like a specimen. Their silence felt heavy, like the press of 1,000 unspoken questions. Why are you here? Who sent you? How long until you break? Her legs trembled slightly. The elevator dinged open, a silver cage ascending to the 50th floor, where the Real Challenge waited. Inside, the walls were lined with glass offices, shiny, ruthless spaces where suited men and women moved like shadows, their conversations clipped and urgent. Evelyn tried to steady her breathing. She had prepared for this moment for years, long nights under flickering lamps, saving every penny from her part-time jobs, sacrificing weekends and birthdays. But none of that seemed enough as the elevator opened onto the intern meeting room. Inside, 20 young professionals sat around an immense, gleaming mahogany table. Their smiles were sharp, their eyes sharper. Designer watches glittered on wrists. Laptops and tablets gleamed like weapons of status. As Evelyn stepped in, a hush fell. A tall girl with perfectly styled blonde hair whispered loud enough for Evelyn to hear, "Nice clearance rack blazer." A boy near the window smirked, adding, "Clearance couture." Gutsy. The laughter was soft but edged with cruelty. Evelyn's throat tightened. Her hands trembled, fingers digging into the fabric of her blazer. But then, deep inside her, her mother's voice echoed, steady, unwavering. "You're not here to blend in. You're here to rise." The words wrapped around her like armor. She took a deep breath, lifted her chin, and took a seat. The room seemed to lean in, waiting for her to falter. She would not give them that satisfaction. The day unfolded like a gauntlet. Names were called. Introductions were made. Every glance felt like a spotlight. Every word weighed. At lunch, Evelyn sat alone in the gleaming cafeteria, the murmur of conversation swirling around her. She pulled out a sandwich she brought from home, feeling the eyes of other interns flicker her way, some curious, others dismissive. A group of girls giggled nearby, casting sidelong glances. One leaned over and whispered, "Bet she's going to mess up the first presentation." Evelyn heard, but didn't respond. Instead, she focused on the towering windows, the city sprawling endlessly below, the vast unknown she had come to conquer. Her trembling hands smoothed the edges of her notes. She wasn't just fighting to keep this internship. She was fighting to prove to herself that she belonged. Because beneath the gloss and glitter of Howbridge and Wren's world was a simple truth. Courage was a currency she had in abundance. And tomorrow, the real trial would begin. The air in the conference room was sharp and sterile, scented faintly with coffee and ambition. 5 senior executives sat like judges, their faces unreadable mass of authority behind the gleaming mahogany table. Evelyn felt the room shrink around her, each step toward the chair heavy with expectation. The panel's questions came swift and precise. They drilled into her past, her lack of prestigious internships, her small-town background, her limited network. Each word felt like a chisel, carving away at her confidence. Her voice shook only once, a quiet tremor that she swallowed immediately. Then, steadying her breath, she told him about Pine Hollow, not as a disadvantage, but as her crucible. The long nights studying by dim light, the jobs that paid for her tuition, the lessons learned in grit and humility. "You say you can handle pressure," a sharp-eyed woman asked. "How will you survive here, where others are groomed for success?" Evelyn met the question with quiet fire. "Pressure isn't new to me. It's what drives me. I don't just survive it, I learn from it." For a long moment, silence hung thick in the air. Then, the sternest man on the panel, Mr. Langston, nodded slowly. "Welcome to Halbridge and Wren, Evelyn." Relief flooded through her. But the journey was just beginning. Her first day was a whirlwind. Introductions blurred together. Software trainings felt like mazes, and the luxury of the office was almost suffocating. The sharp angles of glass desks, the muted hum of high-powered conversations, the scent of expensive cologne mingling with fresh coffee. Then came the moment everyone talked about in hushed awe, the CEO's briefing. Richard Halbridge was a man both revered and feared. The ice king of finance, known for his razor-sharp mind and near-impossible standards, he had been single for over 30 years, his heart seemingly frozen by years of solitude. Rumor had it he was famously allergic to women, a fact that only added to his intimidating aura. No one dared to get close, and certainly no one expected to survive long under his cold gaze. His footsteps echoed as he entered the boardroom, a tall, impeccably dressed figure in a dark navy suit, his eyes cold but commanding. Evelyn felt the weight of his gaze immediately. She tried not to flinch, reminding herself of her mother's words. As Halbridge spoke, his voice was crisp and precise, outlining the firm's vision with an intensity that filled the room. But then something shifted. His eyes met Evelyn's, steady, piercing. For a heartbeat, the cold veneer cracked. In that instant, Evelyn felt seen. She glanced at her reflection in the polished glass. The simple elegance of her modest makeup, the soft blush warming her cheeks, her dark hair pulled back to reveal the quiet strength in her steady gaze. No designer label could mask the courage beneath. Halbridge's voice dropped to a near whisper, but she caught the hint of something new. Curiosity, perhaps respect. The room was filled with anticipation, but Evelyn felt a flicker of hope. For the first time, she wasn't just another intern. She was someone who had caught the eye of the most powerful man in the building. From the moment Evelyn stepped into Halbridge and Wren, she was the easy target. The other interns, slick, polished, sharp, saw her as a misfit, an outsider with nothing but worn clothes and quiet determination. They whispered behind her back, laughed when she wasn't looking, and plotted pranks to shake her resolve. One afternoon, as she returned from a meeting, Evelyn found the wheels missing from her chair. Another time, a cruel note slipped under her door, mocking her small-town roots. But she endured, holding on to the quiet strength her mother had gifted her. Then came the night when a group of interns trapped her in a conference room, their smirks cold and taunting. "Not so tough now," one sneered. Before panic could take hold, the door swung open. Richard Halbridge entered, tall, commanding, eyes blazing with unexpected fury. "Enough," he said, voice sharp and unwavering. The interns scattered like shadows at dawn. Turning to Evelyn, his gaze softened. "Are you all right?" Her nod was barely audible, but it was enough. Work at Halbridge and Wren was brutal, but Evelyn found moments of solace in the city's hidden corners. Each evening, she walked a familiar route past gleaming towers and flickering streetlights. At a humble burger stand, she bought 2 burgers every night. One for herself, one for the thin man who sat quietly on a nearby bench, his face marked by years of hardship. One evening, Halbridge, finishing late, saw her from across the street. He watched in silence as she knelt beside the man, offering a burger with a gentle smile that seemed to warm the cold night. Days later, under a relentless drizzle, Evelyn carried sandwiches to a bus shelter where a cluster of homeless women huddled. She handed out the food with quiet grace, ignoring the rain soaking her clothes. Halbridge, umbrella in hand, lingered unseen, feeling something stirred deep within him. Admiration for a woman whose kindness was as fierce as her ambition. Then, one late night, Evelyn paused outside a shuttered storefront to wrap her scarf around a shivering boy curled on the steps. She offered him a sandwich and water, her eyes calm but fierce. Halbridge stepped forward from the shadows. "I didn't expect to find you here," he said softly. She looked up, surprised but steady. "Some people don't have a choice." He studied her, the glow of streetlights catching the depths of her resolve. "You carry a strength no one else here does." Back at the firm, Evelyn's relentless work on a daunting merger stunned even the toughest critics. She pored over contracts, unraveling hidden pitfalls, then presented with unwavering confidence that silenced a room full of skeptics. When she finished, the room was still until Halbridge rose, clapping slowly. "Exceptional work, Evelyn. You've done more than meet expectations. You've redefined them." Their eyes locked, a powerful understanding blooming in that quiet moment. Months passed. Their professional respect deepened into something unspoken, a bond forged through shared struggles and quiet moments of truth. One evening, as they reviewed reports under the city's glowing skyline, Halbridge admitted, "You've changed everything I thought I knew." Evelyn smiled, a soft fire in her eyes. "Sometimes," she said, "it takes the coldest ice to reveal the brightest fire." The intern who had arrived trembling and mocked had risen not just through talent, but through kindness, courage, and unbreakable spirit, melting the heart of a CEO cold after 30 years. The city was cloaked in twilight, skyscrapers glowing like sentinels against a deepening sky. Halbridge in Wren's office was quiet, an oasis of calm after a relentless day. Richard Halbridge stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, gazing out at the sea of lights below. His mind wasn't on stocks or mergers tonight. It was on Evelyn. She had just left the conference room, unaware that he had stayed behind, waiting for a moment alone with her. The soft click of heels on marble echoed through the hall. Evelyn appeared in the doorway, surprise flickering across her face. "Richard, sir? Is everything all right?" He turned, the usual cold edge gone, replaced by something raw and vulnerable. "Evelyn, I need to tell you something. Something I've carried for far too long." She stepped closer, heart pounding, sensing the weight behind his words. "When I first saw you, trembling but unbroken, I knew you were different. You showed me strength beyond numbers, beyond power. You reminded me what it means to care." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, opening it to reveal a simple yet elegant ring. "I fell for the woman who feeds the hungry, who fights through every storm with quiet courage, the woman who melted the ice around my heart." Evelyn's eyes glistened with tears as the world seemed to hold its breath. "Will you marry me?" His voice cracked with emotion, not as the CEO or the intern, but as two people who found something real in a world that often forgets how. Time paused. Then Evelyn nodded, voice trembling yet certain. "Yes, Richard, sir. I will." "No, sir, only Richard." Both smiled. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and as the city lights sparkled beneath them, two souls, one strangers from opposite worlds, began their forever.